Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
Podcast Pub Chat Edition. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. We're your witchy hosts for this once weekly witchy podcast. This is a Pub Chat Edition, which means that I'm in charge this time, and we have beverages.
Bevs. Today we are drinking Corbel Pinot Gris Champagne.
Yes. Pinot Gris Champagne. If you're fancy.
I don't like anything about those sounds.
It's how you do it if you're fancy. That's how they say it.
That is, I'm most assuredly not.
Yeah, for sure.
You let the record show you're wrong.
To quote one great and powerful Zap Brannigan, champagne. Yeah. So it is obviously a spooky season, and so we decided to for this particular spooky season. And for this pub chat, sort of like delve into some of the more like occult stuff presented in like movies and things like that, right? The last pub chat, we talked specifically about like lessons from movies and such with like ghosts. So in this pub chat, we're going to delve directly into a specific movie. We're going to talk about 2016's A Dark Song.
Yes.
Directed by Liam Gavin and starring Catherine Walker and Steve Oram.
Yep.
So, we watched this on Shudder, like Shudder TV or whatever it's called, because we have Shudder and we love Shudder. We are not sponsored by Shudder. We are not like associated with them in any sort of way. Although if Shudder would like to sponsor us, that would be quite gangster, because we literally have been watching it
every day,
all October.
All day.
It has a total shout out to them because I don't care. So not only is it a horror specific streaming service, so it has all those horror movies on it. They have Shudder Originals, which are super good.
Oh my gosh, the originals are so good.
Yeah, and they also have on the streaming service a system called Shudder TV, whereon it's just like curated movies playing, just like movie, and it changes like once a week or something like that. So you can just like watch movies. Yeah, it's just like a shotgun blast of movies.
And Shudder TV is fantastic because basically it's streaming, but like you don't have to make the decisions. Like, could you watch something else? Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you can you be
can
specific,
choose what you want.
But it's nice to just be like, put on horror movies, TM, and it's just gonna play everything from like one of those like giallo video nasties to like Korean horror movies to like Freddy Krueger. To like, a Shudder original.
To like 70s slasher.
It's got like everything. And it just sort of plays it all.
House on Haunted Hill, the original one with Vincent Price.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really great way to discover horror movies that you wouldn't
or
normally be
subgenres
watching.
Of horror that you're like, I'm not really into like, let's say like 70s, like video nasty, giallo, like those sort of like 70s slasher flicks. And it's like, there's a lot not great about them. Let me fucking tell you. Right. But there are some of those movies that have like either just the most bonkers slash scenes or like hilarious cinematography or like truly frightening moments for like what appears to be no reason.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's a really cool service because it lets you like see a bunch of stuff. So, okay, gas it up, Shudder. Over. All right, let's talk about A Dark Song.
Yes.
So before we get into the like mysticism part of it, let's talk about the plot part of it. We're gonna kind of roll this one sort of like a magic in media or a review jive.
Yeah.
But a little bit more focused on the like magical side of it, the mysticism side of it, the occult side of it. So, what was this movie about?
So,
I can answer this question. You can phone a friend. I'm free, by the way.
So, we follow our main character, Catherine Walker. Her name is Sophia in this. And she is trying to get an occultist to perform the Abramelin Ritual. And it is a like very intensive ritual with very specific and strict and far-reaching requirements. And to do that, she needs to get a house. She finds a house. She's got a lead on a guy who's going to be an occultist.
Yep. Hey, also, spookiest part of this movie comes from the realization that this movie isn't real, insofar as, all right, at the very beginning, like the first sequence in this movie, she looks at this beautiful mansion out in the middle of nowhere in Wales or whatever. And the realtor explains that it's sadly a 1-year lease for $10,800 with an $800 deposit. Which, if you live in a place where that seems like a reasonable price for a mansion to rent, then let me know where you live. I would also too like to live there. Because here in Northern California, that is offensively cheap. That is cheaper than a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So, whatever, dog, about that. I had to bring up that price because it's one of those numbers that like it's stuck in my head so fast. So we've seen this movie like 10 times because it was on Shudder TV. Over the last couple of weeks.
And we've seen it before.
And we had seen it before, right? But, like, I guess I had never really paid attention to that intro sequence before until, like mid-late last week. It was on in the morning, and I was, like, watching that. And, like, I heard the guy say the line that it's it's a 1-year lease, and it's $10,800 with $800 deposit. And, like, I had never really paid attention and heard that. And my brain very rapidly did the math and was like, man, fuck you. What? Like, what is that price? Because this house is fucking enormous, dude.
Yeah.
And it's all, like, beautiful-ass grounds. Yeah, we don't even see all of it. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
This house looks like it should have an $8,000 a month rent, not an $800 a month rent.
Yeah.
And it's not like indicated that it's like haunted or whatever.
Oh, it's not like a spooky. In fact, the guy's real like the wallpaper's a little grungy. The trim could take a wash. You know, like he's trying to make it seem like the price that we're charging is it makes up for the fact that it's a bit dingy or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what are you even talking about, man?
Yeah.
It's just,
crazy.
It's the least believable part of this movie. So is the price of this house.
She has to find like through all these requirements, all these things for this house. And then she talks to an occultist, Steve Orum's character. And he is basically like asking her questions to see if he wants to do the ritual. And he ends up agreeing to do the ritual, and they get all of the pieces together for the ritual, which basically includes like a long period of time without like leaving the house or engaging in the outside world. We'll get more into that when we get to the occult side of things.
Yeah.
And so they start doing the ritual, and it is a harrowing ritual. Like it's a lot. It's a lot of the ritual,
and it's a lot of like ritual fasting and ritual like not torture, but like you're like going to be sleep deprived and we're going to pour cold water on you sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And how they have like each room is set up with like a different part of the ritual. And again, we'll go into more of that detail when we get into the ritual part of it. Yeah. But so he puts her through this like tremendous amount of stress, as well as across this entire process of the ritual, which we're sort of like speed running through to get through the plot area parts, probably 5 times, several times, she throws a tantrum about like, is the ritual doing anything?
Which is crazy because inevitably it's right after we are shown that the ritual is in fact working and there are things that are mysterious happening.
Yeah. It's either like it was just doing something straight mystical. And then, like, 5 minutes later, she's just like, is this even working?
Yeah.
Or she's like, she's like tired. And she's like, is this even working? And then, like, a spooky thing happens. And the guy's like, there it is right there. And she's like, I don't know about this. I don't even know. This is just random occurrence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, maybe those flowers blew into the sealed house. Whatever. Yeah. You know?
And throughout the course of doing this ritual, she has to basically come to terms with all of her demons. But it's not necessarily her demons, like a cache of demons, a group of demons. But it's sort of hinted that it's like they're specifically there for her, basically.
Mhm.
And at the very end of the ritual, after she's done all the things and faced the demons and stuff, she is supposed to be able to see her guardian angel and
is granted a wish. Yeah.
So
guardian angels, single wish genies.
Yeah,
does that mean a guardian angel is 1/3 as powerful as a genie?
Man, I don't know. Maybe they're getting it across in one wish instead of 3. So
yeah, maybe it's just because they don't do the trickery. Because, you know, genies are like...
They do
doing trickery with your witches, and this angel's like, I'm not going to fuck with you, I got this.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So that's the movie, and that's actually a relatively spoiler-free thing. So,
yeah. But we are going to get into spoilers.
Yeah, so we are getting into spoilers as we talk about the mystical and occult stuff. So if you have not seen A Dark Song and you want to watch it before we get into this, now is a good time to pause this video and watch that movie and then come back.
Yeah.
You can find this on several streaming services. It's not just on Shudder. At the time that we are recording this, you can find it on Shudder and where else?
Well, I'm opening this up. So it's available to rent on Apple TV, Google Play Movies, Amazon Video, and the Microsoft Store. Yeah, I don't know what that means. And it's available to buy. Yeah, I can't even begin to fathom what that means.
I don't either.
And it's available to buy on Amazon, Apple TV, Google Play Movies, and Amazon Video, according to Letterboxd.
Yeah. So definitely check whatever streaming services you have. See if they have it. I firmly believe that it's worth the cost in renting it. If you are listening to this podcast, you probably are already into this stuff. So huge recommendation. So now that we've gone over that, we are going to get into the mystical side of things, which will include spoilers for the plot and the general story of the movie.
Yes.
So
I guess spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Okay.
Leave now or forever hold your peace or something.
Yeah, whatever they say. Okay, so let's get into the trifling of this lady. Let me fucking tell you, this absolute bitch.
Okay, so when she's talking to the occultist to see it to basically to talk him into doing this ritual for her, he asks her why she wants to do this ritual.
After she talks to him, she goes like, "You want to see the house?" And he's like, "Fine, I'll see your fucking house." And so they go and look at the house, and he's like, "The house isn't great. You're not great. I don't want to be here. Fuck this place."
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, "No, you got to do it." So basically, he confronts her, right? And asks her, why are you doing this? What do you want to do this about? Right? And she says, "I want to do this for love."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Trifling ass bitch, I'm out." Right? So he's out. She takes him back to the train. He's about to leave, right?
And she's like, "I'll give you $80,000 to do this."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah, man."
He's like, "That shit's boring. I don't care.
No, I'm not going to do it for that."
Right.
And she's like, "Okay, well, I lied, basically. I'm not doing it for love.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because my child died."
Yeah. So her kid died, and she wants to hear his voice again.
Of some teenagers doing a ritual.
Yeah. So, and this is brought up a couple of times throughout the movie, and in a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Right? But it sounds like some teens picked up her kid from daycare or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Because she wasn't there to pick him up.
Yeah. That's definitely what that sounded like.
That's what that sounds like. And so some teens are like, "Actually, we'll take this kid." And I guess the daycare was totally okay with that. Or whatever, man.
Yeah.
And they went out into a field and like sacrificed his kids to do some ritual.
I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, because it seems like
it's never super clear.
Well, the kid's for sure dead. And the teen or teens that did it were never discovered and not found.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been 3 years since that happened, and so like the police have given up looking for these bad guys.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it does sound like they did find a dead kid.
Yes.
This isn't like she thinks he's dead. The police say he's dead, but there's no proof he's dead.
No,
this is like for sure dead
for
kid.
Sure dead.
No clue who done it.
Yeah. So for me, the first red flag here, as someone who does magic, is that he asked her why she wants to do this like crazy ritual, and she says for love. First of all, if she was telling the truth, and you want to do a crazy ritual where you're calling a guardian angel for love, that generally means that you're doing something that's like, not cool consent wise.
Yeah.
And you're trying to force somebody.
He straight calls her that.
And that's basically
calls her out. He's like, he's like, that's a dumb, boring reason. I'm sorry, you want to go through this profound ritual and have your guardian angel grant you literally any wish whatsoever, and it's just you want to use it to convince somebody to love you?
Yeah.
Ugh,
so when he's like gross. Yeah, so when she told him that, he was like, I'm out. So like that's first red flag.
Yeah.
Second red flag is when she tells him that she lied to him and that it's actually because her child died. Okay, well, guess what? I'm still not performing this ritual for you, lady.
Yeah.
Because this is an intense and dangerous ritual.
And when he finds out about this, he basically says like, why did you lie? And she's like, oh, like maybe it would be
I thought it was going to be too much.
And he was like, no, that's interesting at least. Like if you're going to do it for love, that's boring as shit. But if you're going to do it like to talk to your dead kid for closure, like that's interesting. That's worth the ritual, for an abundant lack of better words. Right? So he goes like, fine, I'll do it. Right? So they get the ritual set up and they start doing it. And so this ritual is, She mentions that she thinks it's a Kabbalah ritual, and he explains that it's not. It's Hermetic.
Well, it's pre-Hermetic.
Right, and that the Kabbalah is just like a structure that shares language with this ritual.
Yes.
But it's not actually a Kabbalah tier ritual or whatever.
Yes, which is actually true. So the ritual is called the Abramelin Ritual. This ritual is taken from the Book of Abramelin, which is actually technically 4 separate books. Whatever. Sure. Abramelin was a mage who lived in Egypt.
Named for 2 fruits, an apple and a melon. Yeah. You're welcome for that.
No.
Solid dad jokes over here. You're welcome. Like this. You're welcome, my child.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Just turn that dad joke into a father joke.
Is that like, what was that like pineapple thing?
Pineapple apple pen?
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that pineapple apple pen stuff. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. So Abramelin was an Egyptian mage. He lived in the like late 1300s, which puts it time frame wise way before Hermetic ritual. But this is something that definitely helped to feed Hermetic ritual and other books of this type. And this book was translated from its like native language, which
probably Egyptian. Right?
Yeah, I'm not seeing what the native language is, but it was translated into German in the like late 1800s by one of the men who did actually found or was a sort of like early member in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is associated with Aleister Crowley.
Right.
And he translated the first 3 books.
Yeah.
And that was really the only translation that we got until like 2006. When a new scholar did it and has some slightly different translations. The translations sort of change over time as we understand contextual language in the past better. So that is...
Or worse, for what it's worth. Sometimes we make unnecessary changes because of like modern sensibilities about stuff. Whether we're aware of it, consciously making those changes, or we're subconsciously making those changes because we have a bias based on our own belief structure. If you're going to do research into this, I would recommend read both or all potential versions and then come to a conclusion that fits you the best. With regard to these sort of things. But so on the Crowleyan side of this, so this ritual was performed by Aleister Crowley and his boys, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
In fact, a documentary about Aleister Crowley performing that ritual is what inspired Liam Gavin.
Yeah, the
director,
and the writer,
who's also the writer,
yeah.
to write this movie.
Yeah.
Now, in this movie, they complete the Abramelin Ritual.
Yes.
However, Aleister Crowley and his boys, they were at like a hunting lodge out in the middle of nowhere to do this. They did not complete the ritual.
I did find differing accounts of that, some indicating that they did in fact complete the ritual, but it was like by the skin of their teeth. Regardless of how far they got
the historical
in
stuff
the ritual,
that I found from the hunting lodge history was that they never finished it. They left. They basically, because the Abramelin Ritual is not a ritual that's like, okay, you're gonna like do these 5 things and then ritual's done. You're gonna do these 5 things and then you're gonna do them again and you're gonna do them again and you're gonna do them again until you like sort of wear that ritual in.
Yeah.
For an abundant lack of better words, and maybe it'll kick the first time one time, and maybe it'll kick like the 5th time.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing that I read was that because they only had the lodge for like, whatever, a winter. Who cares?
Yeah, you're supposed to do this ritual over the period of like 6 months, 4 to 8 months, so 6 months without having any sooner, contact.
But you can't leave once you close the circle to initiate the beginning of the ritual. If anybody leaves and crosses the circle, then it immediately cancels the ritual. Right? It stops it in its tracks. So you got to think about it this way, just from like a structural, non-mystical standpoint. You and your boys want to do a ritual, and you rent this fucking mountain chalet for a month, or whatever, or even for a whole winter, right? And so you guys like show up, and you have like some chill time, and you do some meditation, do a couple of classes or whatever the heck, right? Maybe go skiing. Hey, we're gonna start this ritual. We can start on this ritual. First time around, it doesn't kick. Second time around, it doesn't kick. Third time around, it doesn't kick. Let's say you were halfway through the 4th time, and you're getting more vibes about it. Or whatever the fuck, right? But like, we gotta leave this house on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, because they didn't own the building.
Yeah.
Right? So this is more one of those like, sometimes the practical stuff cancels out the mystical stuff on that end. This building did burn down relatively recently, like within the last 20 or 30 years, and is under construction right now is finished with construction to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
Because it burned down like way later. Had nothing to do with the Aleister Crowley test or whatever. But so this is inspired by the Crowleyan attempt at it.
Yeah, although he did use apparently a lot of the actual text from Abramelin to sort of inform his writing in this. However, one of the things that he did change in the movie is any symbols that you see on the ground or on the wall or in the book or anything like that.
Some of the symbols, some of the words, and some of the structure
changed.
Yeah,
because he wanted to show respect for the like source material.
Yeah. And I imagine he didn't want to shoot this film and accidentally Abramelin. Right? Ain't nobody trying to accidentally Abramelin.
This is the only movie this guy has ever done, and this came out in 2016. So
maybe he did Abramelin. Yeah, hopefully he's okay.
Yeah.
Liam,
I think it's funny that it's being called the Abramelin.
Also, girl,
the name
Liam,
of the guy.
Do more of these movies.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know who is in charge of giving this guy money, but whoever's in charge of checks that go directly to one Liam Gavin of A Dark Song, cut a new one for this motherfucker. Give him money, let him do another thing. Like, this movie is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tight. There's basically 2 actors in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you didn't know any better, you'd think that this would be a coronavirus movie.
For sure.
It's such a cast.
I mean, because it's basically like two people. I mean, like, you could, like, borderline guerrilla style shoot this.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Except for the, like, set decoration parts, which were, like, incredibly intense.
Yeah. So from a magical standpoint, a lot of the things that they portray in the movie make total and complete sense.
For sure.
They spend a lot of time talking about purifying yourself. And this is not something that we really focus on particularly
the way we do stuff.
And particularly in our style of magic, because we are much closer to chaos magicians, where we are taking things as they are and molding them to as we want, as opposed to the
starting at zero part.
The starting at zero in the ritualistic part. Not that there's anything wrong with that literally at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just different structures.
Yeah,
dude.
we just have a style and a flow, and it's not what this is, but there is a lot of importance placed on purifying and cleansing and stuff like that in here. And all of the things that they talk about with purifying and cleansing make sense. At one point, he hands the girl a mushroom, and he tells her to eat it, and she's like, I'm not going to eat that.
Toadstool.
A toadstool, yeah.
Yeah, toadstool.
She's like, I'm not going to eat that. And he's like, you want to do this ritual, you're going to have to do it.
Yeah. For what it's worth, this guy flies off the handle pretty aggressively. Part of it, okay.
She's pretty annoying, honestly. I can't really fault him for it.
Part of it is like, because this lady is like, I'm willing to pay you $80,000 to perform this mystical rite. Why isn't it happening yet?
Why isn't it happening immediately?
Dude, she is. Are we there yetting this motherfucker? Through a 6-month long ritual.
So he gives her a toadstool to eat and tells her that eating this toadstool, first of all, it's going to be horrible. It's not going to be great.
Yeah, she's like, is it going to be bad? And he's like, oh my God,
but it's going to cleanse you physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
Which is really not that surprising, because the toadstool does make her sick. She does vomit out all of her food. I'm assuming she probably also had diarrhea too, but we didn't see that.
Yeah.
So, so it would make you purge in a physical sense.
Yeah.
But it's also going to give her hallucinations that will allow her to cleanse and purify and purge in a spiritual sense as well. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the ways that they talk about doing spiritual cleansing. They also talk about ritual fasting and that sort of stuff, like briefly at the
ritualistic. Well, ritual fasting. Yeah, they set up that there's a structured period of ritual fasting as one of the steps of the Abramelin. They also have ritualistic cleansing for him.
Yeah.
There's ritualistic cleansing for her, although that is the Venn diagram between ritualistic cleansing and ritualistic torture is like very much overlap for that one.
Yeah. So there is a lot of that in there. But it does sort of make sense, because what he's trying to do is essentially push her into a space where she's living very fully in that moment and is able to sort of experience an altered state of mind through delirium or through other methods in a very easy way.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a cheater's way to get into like a ritualistic state. Again, we're not saying that you should do this.
Oh my God, I don't support any of this. Yeah. Well, we're not any people that could support that.
Yeah,
even if you were a doctor, I wouldn't support that.
So don't do that, maybe.
No, but you understand the point. I mean, really, just like how the symbols, like if you were to look at this movie and be like, okay, I want to learn about the Abramelin ritual. This is all structure. There are several times in this movie where Steve Orum's character specifically talks about witnessing the structure of reality.
Yeah.
Right? Seeing like the point isn't for power. Like, to be able to do the ritual. The point is for the knowledge of being able to do the ritual.
Yes.
The knowledge gained from, like, seeing the structure, the backbone of reality, for an abundant lack of better words.
Yes.
Right? And to that extent, I think that's a great analogy of the way that you should interpret what information you can gather from this movie with regard to the Abramelin ritual. You're seeing a broad strokes structure of a very deep ritual like the Abramelin ritual, right? Like, the symbols aren't the same symbols, and the words are probably not the exact same words, right? But you're seeing,
but the basic
it's
premise is there
by it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're seeing something structurally close.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And we see that especially in one scene, there are several circles drawn in chalk on the ground in a specific room in the house, because different rooms mean different things in this ritual.
And different circles within each room mean different things. You know, there's a square room and the triangle room and the circle room.
Yeah,
but the
circle
circles
room
within the
has
circles mean things.
in it, and each of the circles means something.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly all the things because we didn't take notes for this. But but like there's one circle and you go through and you complete the ritual while sitting in that circle, and that one is to signify earth. So that's essentially understanding, becoming one with, and also at the same time being able to let go of earthly ties.
Yeah.
The ties to possessions, the ties to wealth, the ties to that sort of thing. And then as you go through each circle, you've got more layers there. So you're going through a spiritual one, you're going through emotional stuff, you're going through shadow self stuff, you're going through all of these circles consecutively, and until you finish that circle, you don't move forward to the next one.
Yeah.
You complete the whole thing over and over again. So you're doing this ritual over and over again, and it's something that we don't often talk about in the podcast also, now that I think about it. But the idea of repeating things, and we have talked about this at least a little bit, but it is sort of the difference between saying something once and saying it repeatedly, having a mantra. Essentially, the purpose of this is to do the ritual so many times that it becomes a mantra. It becomes part of you. You own it. You direct it. It is part of the fabric of your being.
There's like an inward facing and an outward facing justification for the repetition of a ritual this big, right? The inward facing side of the repetition is sort of like, how do you learn a thing, right? If I show you how to do a thing, you don't know it the first time, right? It takes multiple times to do it, right? Whether it's like, you know, on a test for school, right? Having the same question asked 4, 5, 6 times to see if that person really has that knowledge, or the book going over different ways to solve the same equation, right? Like you just look at like when you took geometry, right? The like way that there's only a set number of symbols that they're teaching you all this stuff around, right? You know, they're teaching you around a square, around a triangle, around a circle, around a cylinder, but a cylinder is a circle, 2 circles, and a rectangle, right? Or whatever the fuck, right? So they teach you through repetition so you can better know a thing, right? The thing that like we were taught in martial arts school that I was raised with in martial arts school is that like a thing isn't yours until you've done it 1,000 times, right? And it's just because like yes, like in quotes TM, this is how you throw a punch or whatever the fuck like the thing is you're trying to learn. Right? But like you're going to do it slightly differently.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to find the version of the perfect punch that resonates best with you, your physical form, right? So that's the internal facing purpose of repetition, right? Is the fact that you're etching that path in your brain. If you were to think about this from like a purely symbolic standpoint, conceptually, as you think about stuff, right, pathways in your consciousness are lighting up as you move through tasks and thoughts, right? So if you were to think about that as like a 3-dimensional symbol, by repeating the Abramelin again and again and again, back to back like that, what you would be doing is you would be practicing the act of making that path easy to follow, essentially etching the 3-dimensional symbolism of that spell, the like ritual symbol to represent that entire spell relative to time across your consciousness, right? So you would essentially be writing that spell inside of your brain.
Yeah.
Right. From like a medical science standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. So the external, the outward looking expression of repeating the ritual is actually more simple than the inward facing one. It's literally just you have to become part of the ritual. You and the ritual have to become one, right? And like an example is she is constantly questioning whether or not the ritual is working or is real or if they're actually doing this thing or is she, so she has like doubt about that.
Even though in many instances,
every time
this is right after, like we see,
it's either right after or right before, but still, there's so much proof.
We see her child's toys showing up. We hear,
it's getting moved around.
The voice of her child.
Not actually her kid.
Not actually her kid.
Demons.
This is like a demon for the most part.
Probably.
We only know for sure it's a demon one time.
Delicious.
The dog thing, also that there is flowers that show up in the house, even though everything's sealed. There is a point where she's working in the angel room, and there are like golden petals that rain down. And so there's like a lot.
There's a lot of proof that she's doing
things in the shadows. She's hearing voices like whispering, and there's proof there.
Yeah.
And I think that in some respect, they're probably trying to have us guess as to whether or not this is just her mind slipping. But as someone who has practiced occult ritual, I was just like, that checks out.
I don't even know if they're necessarily trying to like make you question what is or isn't real. It seems pretty. The movie seems to pretty certainly tell you that what's happening is real. I think what it's trying to show you is that like, so long as she doubts, at some point the ritual will stumble.
Yeah.
Right? And then, of course, so after several attempts and several stumbles, right, we come upon the third lie.
Yes.
Right? Whereon she admits that she is, in fact, not doing this to hear her son's voice, but is instead doing this for vengeance.
Because her son died.
And
she wants to get the person
or people who did this never got caught. And the police have given up looking for them, so no justice.
And she said a few times that she doesn't do forgiveness.
Yeah,
indicating the thing that happened with the kid, right?
Yeah.
But this does also cause some issues with the ritual, because part of the ritual is a forgiveness thing. So because they're not doing that, he has her drink a blood sacrifice.
Right. So the her not doing her forgiveness thing, it doesn't. I mean,
I guess blood offering is more accurate.
For what it's worth, it doesn't seem to matter whether or not you actually do forgiveness. Simply because there's a workaround for the forgiveness.
Yeah.
For what that's worth. Right? But a theme that matters more for the plot than for the ritual is that she doesn't do forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right? So we like while we analyze the ritual that occurs throughout the movie, we also need to remember that all things within the movie are functionally serving a plot. And the plot and the ritual should be looked at as distinctly separate things.
Yeah.
Insofar as they're like borderline perfectly overlapping Venn diagram, right? But there's still tonal color differences.
Yeah.
Right? So, an example of the ritual having to be extracurricularly done is that she doesn't do forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
So he gives her a blood sacrifice. But that serves more to indicate about the plot for her and more to indicate about the ritual for him. So this is where you get a bifurcation of their placements within the act of the ritual, right? So in this first sequence of them going through the Abramelin, he talks about, you got to do forgiveness. And they've been doing the thing they've been doing cold ass water, and they've been doing food and fasting and stuff. And they've been doing all the stuff, right? This guy indicates that he's like an alcoholic, but he like uses the DTs to like specifically help him get into the place to be like
Yeah.
one with the ritual, which is fascinating. But it's just like a throwaway thing at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Obviously. So he lances his arm, and then again, like, don't do any of the stuff that we're talking about. So he lances his arm, puts it in a cup, gives her a cup, and like, let's say there is 1 ounce in this cup. Right? We're going to who cares about the exact numbers? We're just going to use volumes. So it's easier than me holding up my hands just in case you're listening to this. So he's got like 1 ounce in like one of those stem-free goblets.
Yeah.
Right? Like wine glass. And he puts it down and he's like, you got to drink it. And she's like, that's gross, dog. Maybe my blood is less gross. And he's like, you said you were going to do whatever you want. Again, he loses his cool a lot. You got to drink it. Drink it. And he, and then he yells something like, if you don't hurry up, it's going to coagulate. Yeah. Or it's starting to coagulate or something like that, right? So she chokes down drinking this like ounce of blood and goes like, ugh, and is like coughing and puts the cup down. And it kind of does like, not like a Ralph, but like a little bit of a heave about it. And he was like, you better hold it down. Like, don't throw it up or whatever. And then she looks back and the cup has approximately 2 ounces now of blood in it. And he says,
not only is it refilled, but not like refilled, but like a brand new cup, as if the previous cup had never existed.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like the whole part of the ritual resets. And she said, and he goes, you have to drink it. And she says, I already did. And he says, no, you have to drink it. And it's gonna curdle.
Congeal.
Or it's gonna congeal or whatever the fuck, right? And so she grabs it and she chokes it down again, same sequence while he's yelling at her.
Yeah.
Which in that moment indicates that he is one with the ritual, right? Yeah. Where on the ritual, because
he didn't indicate.
Well,
he was like, no, you did not already drink it.
Yeah, he clearly indicates that the second time the cup is full, he is not aware that it's the second time.
Yes.
But she indicates that she is aware that it is in fact the second time, and she just drank that, and now all of a sudden she has to drink it again.
Yeah.
Without there being any sort of a step, which to me is indicating it's serving for plot wise, he's in the ritual, she's out of the ritual.
Yeah.
But within the ritual side of things, what it's trying to exemplify, right, as I interpret it, is that he's one with the ritual. So when the ritual calls for more, he's not aware that more is being called for. He is part of the timeline of the ritual, whereon she needed, let's say, 2 or 3 ounces of blood sacrifice, right? Blood drinking, whatever you want to call it, right? Whereon he only gave her 1 ounce.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas because she is not like in phase, right? She's not like resonating with or in resonance with the ritual. She's aware of the physical and temporal discrepancies the ritual is already placing on the house.
Yes.
Right? So this is our first example of there being something mystical happening with regard to the space-time aspect of this building.
Earlier,
and this is early.
Yeah, but earlier than that, the guy talks about that. First of all, they pour like a giant salt circle around the house, which seals it in. The freshness. What was that?
500 pounds of salt, dog? There are like 4 exterior shots of this fucking house, and every time I'm just I specifically think back of 1, the price, because it fills me with rage, and then 2, the salt circle, because that fills me with so many goddamn questions. Did that take 4 days? Did that use hundreds of pounds of salt? Did her fucking station wagon carry all that salt? Or did it have to be delivered by a truck? Dog.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just because you see, it's not a thin line, dude. This isn't a Salt Bay trickle of salt.
Yeah,
this thing's putting down like a line.
Yeah, like
a fat rail, if you will, of anti-demon protection.
Yeah.
All right.
So they earlier in the movie they do the salt circle around the house, but right after that he also says that he needs to unshackle the rooms that they are using for the ritual in the house from reality.
Yeah.
So they have to unshackle those from
that's
reality.
part of the initial steps
of the ritual.
The ritual is that you unshackle parts of this place from reality.
Yeah, and we never actually see what this entails. I'd be very curious to see what it entails.
Yeah.
But that is one of the things that he does. And after that happens, basically, we have a lot of pieces that are starting to trickle in. There's strange bumps in the wall. There are birds that fly into the window. There's voices. After the things are unshackled from reality,
Scratching
we
underneath
start
the floors.
hearing things and seeing things in the house, and it continues to mount as we go further and further through the ritual.
Correct.
Up until the point where he dies.
Yeah. Well,
Steve Orum's character.
But before he dies, so when he learns the third lie, when he learns that it's for vengeance and not to talk to her son, he's basically like, because this is part of an argument where he's just like, she's like, why isn't this working? And he's like, I don't know why it's not working. You're not working. Maybe it's you, right? And she's just like, what are you talking about? And dude, this lady, oh my God, what a fucking piece of shit, dude. What a bitch. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then turns back around and starts doing the dishes. And you're like, dude, like, at least lie better, dog. Right? And he's just like, j'accuse. And like gets her about it. Right? And come to find out, the whole shenan, right, is that she wants the vengeance.
Yeah.
So he wakes her up in the middle of the night and is like, okay, guess what? We got to pull a Constantine. Little bit of drowning.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to drown a lady.
Because she needs to be repurified.
Repurified, but also reset. So what his argument is here is that she needs to be repurified, and this thing needs to, like, we don't want to reset the place in the ritual that we're at.
Yeah.
Right? But what we need to do is we need to just, like, sort of, like, cleanse her. So instead of the, like, you're gonna fast, and you're gonna eat this mushroom, and we're gonna go through this ritual a couple of practice times. Instead of going through all of that, his solution is essentially the nuclear approach.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, okay, how do I clean this house? You know what? It's springtime. You know, you gotta do spring cleaning. I could dust and vacuum and sweep, or, I'm just saying, tiny fusion reaction. Very clean house. Not a lot of house left. Very clean house.
Just burn it down. Yeah.
Burn it down. It's the cleansing power of fire. Except this motherfucker's solution is the cleansing power of void.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he sends her straight to the void, rips her right back from the void, gives her a little power of Christ action.
Yeah.
She's good to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, 0 recommend. Do not do. Bad idea. All right? Yeah. Ain't nobody trying to touch void. You know what? Don't touch void. Leave void alone. Right? Yeah. You don't need that. Fast for a little bit. Start over. Be patient. Don't drown a lady. But this guy drowns a lady. Right? And then, like, undrowns her.
Yeah.
Right? He brings her back. He gives her the worst CPR you've seen in a movie. Well, maybe not the worst, but pretty bad CPR. Pretty bad CPR. Yeah. If you know anything about CPR, it's my favorite pastime in movies, is to, like, watch people give CPR.
Yeah.
Because it's always just, like, the worst acting imaginable.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I'm not trying to break a rib, but, like, that's not how you do that at all, girl.
Yeah.
So he gives her the CPR, brings her back. She's obviously quite angry about it. They have a little tussle. He falls on a knife.
Yeah.
Right?
That's not a euphemism. He actually falls on a knife.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. He falls on a knife. But he also very immediately and clearly understands that he needed to clean her. He chose the nuclear option, which is to void this lady. Now she's fresh.
Yeah.
Dip her in the void a little bit. Right? She's fresh to death. However, that uncleanses him.
Yeah.
So, because he's already part of the ritual, he doesn't need to go through a cleansing. He essentially needs to pay a toll.
Yeah.
The toll for that, knife wound. And boy, is that a knife wound.
Yeah.
And also, they don't seem to do a lot of medicine care for that.
Yeah, because the wound gets infected and he dies.
And he dies from that
and
so dead.
When he dies, she now realizes that she is in this house and this ritual has been started and things are happening and she no longer now knows how to complete the ritual and goes to the books that he was using and they are all crossed out.
Everything on the pages is crossed out. There's the first two books are everything's crossed out. The third book, which is the far shot, so it's a steep angle, far away shot, where she opens the larger book with the loose pages in it. Those pages aren't crossed out. Those pages are blank.
Yeah.
If you notice, I noticed that like 2 or 3 viewings ago. That every page is crossed out except for that book, which is the third of 4 books, and is actually not crossed out. It's blank.
Yeah, and that indicates that they're making a direct reference to the books of Abramelin there, in that it is 3, it's technically it's 4 books. So they would have gotten through the first book, that's why it's all crossed out, and the second book, that's why it's all crossed out. And then the third book and the fourth book are blank because those pieces of the ritual have not been done yet.
Correct. As well as the crossed out or lack of knowledge, because you do see them both writing in and studying from these books throughout the movie. Yeah, so there's
definitely stuff
there's
in
stuff
these
in
books.
there, and they're not crossed out. To me, it is both a reference to the actual Abramelin books, but it is also a reference to the fact that he is dead.
Yeah.
And so the knowledge that he had to allow this ritual to exist at all is gone.
Yeah.
Right? So now the ritual is sort of untethered. Her reaction to this, of course, is obviously this isn't real. I'm going to leave. Fucking the boldest of strategies, Cotton. Right? Yeah. So she leaves the house, tries to go to her car. Obviously her car doesn't work. So then she decides to away from the house. And, he did warn her earlier that you can't, once you start the ritual, you can't stop the ritual because you are essentially unlevered from space-time. You are in a pocket dimension specifically controlled by this ritual.
Yes.
Right? So she does a big walk, and then when she's like, oh, there's a house in the distance, and she goes to this house in the distance, come to find out, same house. Space-time is looped around this house. You can only go so far before you circle back round.
Yes.
Right? So she goes back inside. Lot of fucking spooky bloody handprints.
A lot of demon stuff happening.
And then she has to deal with the fact that now the demons are loose.
Yes.
Right? I think the demons being loosed is because she broke the circle.
But this is actually part of the Abramelin ritual. The thing that happens after she comes back is part of the Abramelin ritual. So in my interpretation of this, the demons are not out and loose because she broke the circle for the ritual. That would basically mean that they could get out of the house. Right? But they didn't get out of the house. They're just out and around the house. But the part of the ritual that they are basically at, based on the loose skimming of the books of Abramelin that I did, is basically he died right before the point where she has to confront each and every demon that comes up. And she sort of does that.
Well, he dies during the confrontation, because if you remember, he dies. The one time she goes to the door with the boy who's claiming to be her son, but it isn't. And he talks about the dog that from the very beginning, they've been hearing, like since they closed the circle, they've been hearing this dog bark at nighttime, right? This like herald, essentially, right? He comes out, he stumbles out the door, and she runs over and like basically like hugs him because she's scared. And he said, "It's not your son." Yeah. So under that, first of all, I interpret that like the load of the confrontation, because he's also having to go through the ritual. He's not just a facilitator; he's also participating. Yeah, I think the load of poison knife wound, demon touching, is what causes him to die. I don't
think so, based on,
because he's also doing the demon touching.
He is also doing the ritual stuff.
Also very infected.
But
so he's not strong, and he does that thing. He's trying to do the ritual chant to strengthen his consciousness, and he just can't. Yes, he's so physically weak that he can't have the mental strength to handle it either. Which is why he has that breakdown. Yes, and he reveals the one character thing we learn about him, which is that he lost a sister. We don't know what that means. We just know that it is. Yes. And I think that I miss you to my sister part, like I miss my sister part, I think has directly to do with the demons that they're starting to face.
Yes,
You
but
know what I'm
also
saying?
yes, but also no. The whole thing with the way that the part where she comes back into the house and the demons are out and loose, that is the part of the ritual that is next for them to complete.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Not the pieces where the demons are trying to tempt them. That is technically not part of the ritual in this part of the movie, like where she's talking to her son and it's
Through
the
the door?
demon and you hear the dog.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not part of the ritual. That is a side effect of the ritual. Like when you take a medication and it's like side effects may include
Anal
this
leakage.
is a side effect
It's always anal
of
leakage.
it. And that is something that is reported by a lot of people who have done the Abramelin ritual.
For sure. Well, I mean, like,
but
listen.
she does confront the demons.
If you're going to talk to some demons before they get to your house, they're for sure going to do spooky music shit, right?
Yes.
You're just talking about the fucking air raid siren before the ash snow, before Pyramid Head decides to fucking cut you in half.
She basically ends up going through books 3 and 4 of the Abramelin Ritual organically at this point.
Well, through rote recitation. Remember, she's already gone through them, but without the actual demon contact, because before she had the doubts and all that sort of stuff, right? The reason why I think that kicked because she crossed the circle isn't because the circle was physically broken, right?
Yeah.
When she crossed the circle, right, she essentially off-kiltered. Okay, so 2 things. First of all, she crossed the circle, that's why she lost a finger.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the price. We've already set up at this point, this is just like narratively logical, right? We've already set up that when you fuck with the ritual fucks you back. Yeah. Right? So she crossed the circle, right? She broke the circle, and the ritual had to fucking spin space-time into a loop so that way she could come back to the house because she's not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Right? And that cost her the finger. Right? But in her crossing the circle and being pulled back into the house, that was the last step she had to take to fully embrace the ritual.
Yes.
She now knows for sure. Because the entire time, and I think the whole reason why she crossed the circle to begin with, why that was the kick, the final kick needed, not his death. Because if you notice, she feels nothing for his death.
Yeah.
Right? She simply steps over his fucking corpse when she gets back.
Yeah.
Right? The kick isn't his death. That doesn't matter to her. Because that proves nothing. He was stabbed. He died from being stabbed. Fucking... Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Right? The kick was this entire time she thought it wasn't real and she could just leave. And the final nail in the coffin, the last thing she had to truly understand is, you can't leave until this is done. Full stop. And he said this at the beginning. You cannot leave until this is done. At first, in the beginning, it sounds like he is threatening. If you leave, the ritual will fail. He's not threatening, he's promising. This is retroactive storytelling, right? Because of what you saw at the end, in the beginning, you recognize that he's not saying, if you leave, this isn't going to work. He's saying, you can't leave until it's done. Girl, when we start, we are fucking trapped, right? We're full triangle boat right now.
Yeah.
Right? Until this gets done. Regardless of him dying. Regardless, if she had died there, essentially their souls, their personages, would be trapped in that space forever. Mm-hmm. The ritual will be caught in a stale right there for eternity in that location. Because it has to be finished. Which also would have been a fucking fantastic movie if this ended with the ritual failing and then a sequel was somebody stumbling onto the tattered remains of space-time.
Yeah.
And getting sucked into the ritual and having to complete it without understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
Liam, make a fucking another movie. Okay. Not important. But so that's why I'm saying that, like, when she crossed the line, that was the kicker. To move to that part where all the demons are released. Not because breaking the circle is what released the demons.
Yeah.
Right? But it's that it was the final thing that she needed to recognize, like, oh, fuck, this is real. Because she always harbored doubt.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, like, you see him, whatever this I am strong, I am, demons fear my name, whatever that thing is he says the night before he dies. Yeah. And then he has that, like, that final breakdown where he starts crying and he says, I miss my sister. Right? I think the sister's voice is what was tempting him.
Yeah.
Right? And I think he's trying to say that to retain enough strength to not die during this ritual.
Well, and also to remind him of what is real and what is not real.
Right, which you see early in the movie when she's starting to have the shakes or whatever the fuck from the water.
Yeah, he tells her.
So you see, I think the end is very much like reinforming a lot of stuff that's happening at the beginning. So she does the demon stuff, and then of course they give her a bonk.
Yeah.
It's such a savage way to do that too, because it's not like a real brutal. It's just like cut to black, and then she wakes up getting dragged.
Yeah,
and attached to the chair. The cinematography in this fucking movie is phenomenal, right? And the sound design is phenomenal, also. But so they brought her to vague shadow zone places. And cut one of her fingers off.
Yeah.
But the benefit, right, the cost of her crossing the circle, finger cut off, my opinion, obviously. But I think the kick of the finger getting cut off is that it gives her the wherewithal, the shock, to just be like, oh my God, fuck these demons, and then gets out.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when she's going upstairs to try to get back to that the circle room.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when the light starts shining down and all the demons are like, ooh, it's too bright. We don't like that. Essentially vampires or whatever the fuck, right? And then she goes upstairs and that giant fucking guardian angel is in there.
Yeah.
Which just so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. And the way that it talks.
The way that it talks in this like bass rumble.
Yeah, really cool.
Very fucking cool.
And then she asks for her wish, which is for the power to forgive. And we were watching this at one point during this week when it was like on repeat. And I was like, honey, you could have just seen a therapist for this.
Yeah, dog. Like you could Abramelin, or you could pay like $120 an hour and just go talk to a fucking regular therapist. Yeah, you could have
just talked to.
But like, yeah, sure, 6 months of Abramelin, losing a finger, totally worth it. Also,
going through a really harrowing experience.
Caused that guy to die, and I guess we're not going to address that shit. Right? She just like Ziploc bags that motherfucker into a river.
Yeah, she just like puts him into the lake attached to the house, and I'm just like, is she gonna like clean this place up, or does she just like leave it as is?
But this is the thing. Okay, after the ritual's done, all evidence that it occurred is gone. In that final sequence, before so the final sequence is her standing like a little above waist deep in the river, pushing him out, and he's wrapped in like his sleeping bag or something. Yeah. To like just pushing him out into the water, right? Yeah. So while that's happening, they're flashing to scenes of the house.
Yeah.
Right? And if you notice all those scenes of the house, those are the rooms that they started in. So there is nothing, there's no writing on the walls. There's no writing on the floors. There's no blood. There are no handprints. There are no symbols.
Yeah.
It implies, in my opinion, not that she cleaned it up, but that the functional bits of the ritual, right? The words, the circles, the lines, the symbols, all of that was essentially erased as soon as the ritual is completed. It all just goes away.
Yeah.
Right?
Or she was like, hey, Angel, what about second
she was like,
bonus wish?
Would you teach me to
clean
forgive?
This place up.
Comma. There's no periods. Comma. Clean this house up. Comma. Maybe they don't find this nigga's corpse or something. I don't know. Right? Like, what's up? just because, like, she puts this guy in this fucking bag.
Yeah.
And floats him out there. And, like, I understand that it's, like, a solemn moment or whatever. But the first thing that crossed my mind is, you could have put a brick in there, bitch. Because that guy is on the fucking surface of the water. That looks like a corpse floating on the surface of the water, wrapped in a bag.
Yeah, honey,
I don't know where this water goes, but somebody's going to be like, yo, what's this? corpse.
She's clearly not into watching
Who's the last person this guy
movies.
emailed?
Yeah.
Her. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were in a restaurant together, like, 6 months ago. What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
I've seen Navy NCIS. Every single bartender and every single waitress or waiter can remember every person who's come in, all of their details, and the way they look perfectly going back hundreds of years. It's just like a fact that we learn in Law and Order TV shows. Right? The delivery man who remembers everybody's personal details.
Yeah, right. It's like, they always go to get coffee at 12 p.m. on Thursdays.
Yeah, exactly.
At this very specific coffee shop.
But so, yeah, so she completes the ritual. Conceptually, she gets her wish.
We don't know for sure.
She seems more at peace.
Yeah, she doesn't seem
But also, she got
angry.
to leave, which maybe that peace... Listen, I am prepared to learn that she's like, my guardian angel, it's so beautiful. Please give me the ability to forgive. And the guardian angel, in its like deep, rumbly baritone voice, is just like, "Get fuck, bitch! I'm gonna clean up for you instead." And then and then the ritual ends, and she's like, "But at least I got to go home and not be trapped in the hell dimension."
Well, the thing that I realized,
I mean, I don't think that's what's happened, but like it fits still.
Yeah, well, the thing that I realized in this watch of it is the guy, Steve Orum's character, says that, they're talking about like what they're going to ask their angel for. And he says invisibility. He just wants to live out the rest of his days in like a house in the middle of nowhere without anybody being around him. And he does. He does get his wish. I suspect that a bit of the asking for a favor thing is a little bit of a monkey's paw.
It could be. I don't necessarily know that it's necessarily a monkey's paw because he, in order to like, if he had slow broed the ritual to reset her for vengeance, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Right. But he took the expeditious path, and he had to pay for that. Right. And whatever the fuck. To that extent, I think he completed the ritual.
Yeah.
Early. First, second, maybe third pass.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's the focus for this ritual, specifically, a thing that he says.
Yeah.
She's the focus for the ritual. I think that his... So, there's this thing, I noticed that there is this thing where the later half of the movie, he is more like a teacher and less like a guide.
Yeah.
Insofar as he's just, and especially after he gets the wound. Right? But honestly, even a little before then, where he's just like setting up structure.
Yeah. Right?
In the beginning, he's real like hands-on, like making sure she understands all this stuff. And then later on, he's very much so just like it's the 12th, whatever the heck, or the 12th house, or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
Or no, it's actually 9, or whatever. It seems more like he's like it feels bodhisattva energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it's less about him being part of the ritual and more about him helping her complete her ritual.
Yeah.
Right? Sort of like they're stacked, but he just was able to complete his first because I think in the first pass, he was already like, quote, one with the ritual, unquote.
Well, he had said that he had done this a couple of times before, and one time it worked and two times
twice it failed and once it worked. But he also said of those 2 times before that he was young and didn't understand. But he also said that for this time that, when he was talking about wanting to disappear, or maybe before he was mentioning that, but I think it was during that sequence where he says that he was looking for her.
Waiting for her. Is what he says. Yeah.
Right. So I think that, he says that he's like seen terrible things and he's seen demons and he's seen gods and he knows he's like going to eternal torture doom zone, right? I think that like my headcanon is that the first time the ritual succeeded, the first 2 times he did the ritual, it failed. But because he never got to be one with the ritual.
Yeah.
I think the 3rd time he asked for knowledge.
Yeah.
Is why he's so focused on it, on the structure of things.
Yeah.
Right? I think he asked for knowledge. And I don't think it's a monkey's paws thing, but I think that, like, I mean, for what it's worth, I think a lot of the times the monkey's paw thing is sort of like, it's the cost of doing business in a much more mundane way than a mystical way, right? It's sort of like when you touch something hot, you're going to burn yourself, right? I think that he asked for knowledge, and he was given knowledge. He was given an understanding of the structure.
Yeah.
But in so doing, he knew how he was going to die and what would happen after he died, which is why he specifically talks about with such confidence that he knows he's like going to hell, for an abundant lack of better words.
Yeah.
Right? I think that the first pass of the ritual in this movie, he completed it. And he wished to live out his days in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Right? But I think in so doing, right, the ritual is like, you will get to live out your days in the middle of nowhere. This is in the middle of nowhere. These are those days. Right? Paired with his knowing, he accepted the fate that he would die in this place. Because he had no point in time fights against the concept of that. Yeah. Right? So, and that would also increasingly explain why, as he's starting to die, he's starting to get like weaker and break down and get softer with her, because he knows that she's going to have to go through the worst part of the journey alone. Yeah. Right? Which is part of that knowledge and, the knowledge from the first one that succeeded, and the live out his days. This one. I think this motherfucker knew. Like, way more than he let on. Yeah. And insofar as I would almost go so far as to say that his, like, aggressiveness, his sort of, like being an asshole, not early on, but, like, middlingly, when she's just like, why isn't this working? And he's like, it is working, right? I think the reason why he's so upset is he can't say, it already worked for me. Right? Because then she's never going to believe him. What proof does he have? Yeah. Right? It's going to fuck up her purity, for lack of better words, right? So he has to just, like, indicate, like, look at all these signs. Look at all this obvious stuff. Why don't you trust? Why don't you believe? He's trying in his abundant lack of self-control way to, like, explain a profound thing to a person who doesn't want to believe in the profoundness of it. Yeah. And I think that's why that last night, his breakdown is like, he's trying to be strong because he knows what's coming. Yeah. Because he knows he's going to hell. Whatever they call it. I don't know if they specifically say he's going to hell, but he's going to, like, the demon place. Mm-hmm. Right? Like he knows that's where he's going, and this is, like, the last night he has. Yeah. So he's trying to, like, leave in strength. Mm-hmm. But in that last minute, he has that human weakness where he talks about his sister. Yeah. Right? Just like how she's trying to be like, I'm not going to forgive anybody. Look how much of a strong person I am. And then, of course, when the demons are like, we're going to take some of these digits, dog. She's like, all right. What about this forgiveness game? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that it's one of those sort of things. I mean, I think that this movie is worth a watch, just if you're a horror fan. It's worth a watch if you are into, like, big ritual TM sort of stuff like that. But I think that it's worth a watch just to have that sort of conversational analysis of a thing. But that thing is presented in such a way whereas you're gonna have a good time. I mean, we've seen this movie a ton of times, and I was still, like, locked in when we were watching it today. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? This movie actually really benefits from, like, multiple watches. Yes. So if you like it, then continue to I feel like the first few times we saw this, we didn't really get the, like, parking lot scene. Because it happens so fast, and it's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely have noticed something new about this movie each time I've watched it, and we've watched it
the symbol on the wall we caught this time, dude.
Yeah, we've watched this movie like 10 times in the last week.
Yeah.
So
there's always something new because there's so
right
much
before
detail.
recording this. So we've watched it a whole lot. So this has been a sort of loose magic and media for a dark song.
For sure.
Definitely check it out if you think that this sort of thing is up your alley. Are there any movies that you would like us to specifically take a look at?
Yeah.
And
whether it's magic and media or just like a movie that's got like vibes that you're super into, and we can just do a review of it.
Yeah.
You know, because we do have a review channel on YouTube, Review Jive. So, you know, even if it's not something that we can talk about magically, we can always talk about it just from like a cinematography, sound design, and scripting sort of a way.
Yeah.
You know? So, this is 2016's A Dark Song by Liam Gavin, starring Catherine Walker and Steve Oram. This is an absolute banger coming in at 96 minutes. It's 100% worth you watching.
Almost the amount of time of this episode.
I know, right? You could have just watched this whole episode. We thought about doing a watch along, but I don't know how to do that. But yeah, this is a great movie. It's super worth your time to check out. We had a great time with it.
Yep.
I mean, all the times that we've watched it, and I would literally be down to watch it, like turn it on immediately after we're done recording. Like that's how much I enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
If you've seen this, what do you think? If you have opinions on our interpretations of the ritual relative to you seeing this or not seeing this, if you have a particular amount of knowledge about the Abramelin guy, Cabalion, I don't know, whatever that cat's name is. Abramelin. Bam. Dog, I don't remember. Damn.
By the way, you can find the translations of the books on the Internet Sacred Text Archive for free.
Yep.
So you can definitely check that out. I have not had a chance to read all of it yet.
It's going on my list to check out.
But it's there.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So, either way, this is 100% worth it. Give this a check out. Let us know what you thought about this. If you want us to make more content or have a more direct contact with us and have access to Book Shadows page and stuff like that, check out our Patreon. Shout out to our patrons. You guys are dope. Names up on the thing. You guys are keeping us better every time. Also, we've been pumping out them Book Shadows pages. How that feeling, dogs?
You're gonna get caught up soon.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm getting close. I can feel it. I got the itch.
We're getting close to anniversary episode 2.
We're getting close to the anniversary live in December. If you don't hear from us beforehand, have a good Samhain. This has been such a fun episode. This has been such a weird, interesting, and fun spooky season. Stay pumpkin-y up in here, guys. I've been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been The Horn
and Cauldron
Podcast Pub Chat Edition. And I'm out of pub, so we're done with the chat part. We will catch you guys next time. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.